Back to working on the AMC engine here. You can see I got the Indy cylinder heads mounted on here. These heads are dimensionally a little bit different than the factory heads. They bring this manifold up a little higher. Indy does make a manifold, it'd probably fit good, but I don't have it. And here I have a piece of 1/2-inch bar stock, and it fits in here perfectly with a little bit of play. Just what I want for gasket crush, and then cap it off with some sealant. I'm going to be making a filler piece to go in here. You can see that the filler piece will have to have these angles. Furthermore, this piece here is at an angle, so this will not be a straight 90-degree cut. The front piece actually has a bend to it. The downside to this is this filler piece is going to come off at an angle like this, and there'll be a little gap here. This will have to be filled with a tube type sealer. Here's my intake upside down on the workbench. I'm going to pull my pattern off of this, and I can get the angles of the gasket surfaces. I'll stick a piece of paper on here, and then just kind of use my dirty finger here to make the pattern. I'll cut that out with the scissors and check it. Here it is trimmed out. Here's my back pattern. You can see that these are not 90-degree angles. Here the pattern's been traced onto the bar stock. It's in the Ellis bandsaw here, cutting it to rough length. We're on the Chinese bandsaw now, and I start shaping this piece. Here I have a non-ferrous grinding burr in the old die grinder, and we're going to do some more shaping here. I've decided to leave the inside a little bit fatter because that intake overhangs the block some, and you're not going to see it anyway. Brand new 80 grit belt on the belt sander. Here are the pieces to rough shape. I have it gripped on the intake. I've taken a straight edge and I've scribed lines on both sides to get my angle. I've roughed in one angle with the bandsaw. Got my table set at about a 90. I'm going to move in up to that line now. Here's where it's at right now. I just kept checking these angles with a straight edge as I was sanding it, and got them pretty close to where they need to be. I went just a hair bit more, but that'll be okay with sealant. I ended up putting this piece here on a block of wood and going across the belt like this. I'm going to run some different grit sandpaper rolls across the areas I couldn't get in with the belt sander now, just to try to smooth it up a little bit. Run it across the front here as well. I'm going to run a crossbuff wheel across the edge that shows now to try to give it a uniform appearance. That's about as good as I'm going to get it with what I got here. Here's a look at that piece fitted on the engine, and we're going to drill and tap it now to secure it to the manifold so it can't go anywhere. That little triangle there will be filled in with the right stuff. The holes we put into this manifold from the underside here and right about there, where it won't go into the water jacket. Have it center punched here. On the Buffalo drill press here, and I'm going to shoot a 1/4 inch hole through this piece for the bolt. This press is on the lowest speed. I have the piece gripped in where I want it. I can run a straight edge on either side. Here I have a 1/4 inch transfer punch. Mark the holes in the intake right where they need to be. We have the stop set on the drill press, and we're going to go ahead and slide that manifold into position, and we'll drill number 7 hole for our 1/4 inch tap. Putting a little aluminum tap in the hole. This is a plug tap, and once we get some thread started, we'll switch to a bottoming tap. We figured about what we need, and we're going to shorten up these bolts a little bit. Here are the pieces test fit. We're going to take it off now, clean the surfaces, and put a little right stuff on there, and a little bit of Loctite on the screws. We're not going to be taking this back apart anytime soon. There it is landed. When I cranked the screws down, some of that stuff came out, wiped it off.
This was a piece we had to make in between that part that's going to be added on. It just is where the PVC goes, and instead of sucking oil that might be splashing around underneath here, usually you get some chore boy and you stick it in between here, and that way you don't suck oil mist out and then into your components.
Here's a look at the front of it. Fits in there pretty good. So the hardware was about $8, and the piece of aluminum was about $7.50. So we were able to fit this manifold of these Indy heads for about $15.50. But there was a lot of time involved messing around.